get that started. And we'll do a mic check and got that mic check. So Mr. Rock, you're asking. Okay, we'll get started. Okay, thanks for joining us today. It is January 17th, 2024, 7 o'clock p.m. This is a special city council meeting. I appreciate everyone joining on short notice, but there's a few important matters that we should discuss and also should make some decisions on. So we'll start off with agenda item 1, call to order and roll call. Billy Mayfies.
Roxanne O'Neill.
Lydia Bryan Valdez.
Candace Blake.
Tony Valdez.
Clennell Strawn.
Cynthia McCall.
All right, thank you very much. Let's close that out and we'll do the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. Move on to agenda item 3, public comments. Comments will be taken from the audience on agenda or non-agenda related topics. City council will make no comments and take no action during public comments. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes. Any comments from the guests on Zoom? Any comments, the audience? No, we will close that one out. And we'll move on to agenda item 4, new business. As there is no new business on the agenda, we'll move on to agenda item 5, unfinished business. 5A, take appropriate action, settlement offer milestone regarding the release of a portion of the city's water certificate of convenience and necessity, CCN. So, Mr. Katz, you got the floor.
Mayor, good evening, council. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you virtually. It's my recommendation, like we did last time, that we adjourn into executive session since this is discussion about settlement of a legal proceeding.
Well, the recording.
It's on. Yeah, so, well, Mr. Katz would still have to, well, we'd have.
Oh,
to
just turn it off and stay in here for executive session?
Yeah, we can do that. So, we're just gonna stay in here, Mr. Cap. We're gonna halt the videos and then we're gonna call you since no one's
Okay.
there.
Okay.
And that'll be our executive session.
Good. Go
Mr.
ahead.
Washhuber, do you want to be a part of it? We can call you too.
You can have him in there if you'd like.
Yeah, what are your thoughts? Do you want to be a part of it?
I'm happy to be, just totally up to the council. And to,
Okay.
of course, to the
All right.
attorney.
Okay.
So we pause this.
Yeah, so we're gonna go into executive. Okay, everyone, thank you for waiting while council was in executive session. We were in discussion about agenda item 5A. Again, I would remind everyone of 5A, take appropriate action on settlement offer from Milestone regarding the release of a portion of the city's water certificate of convenience and necessity, CCN. Coming out of that, y'all just got out of it, so I would make a motion that the council take action on this agenda item based off of, you know, the things we talked about. Yeah.
In regards to settlement for the release of a portion of the city's water certificate of convenience and necessity, the CCN to Milestone, I recommend a motion to accept the $10,000 offer.
A second.
A motion has been made, motion has been second. Takes us to the council vote. All in favor? All in favor? Thank you very much.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Mr. Katz. That was such an informative presentation. I learned so much from you every time.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to agenda item 5B, which is, I believe, nullified with the decision of
Right.
agenda item 5A. Is that correct, Mr. Katz? Can I?
Yeah, I think that's right, Mayor. I think you can skip 5B.
And we'll move on to agenda item 5C. Discuss and possibly take action to adopt an ordinance updating part 6 of the city's water tariff. Mr. Davis, stand.
Mr. Katz's, the part 6 in a ordinance form. And otherwise with a change and an explanation from Don about the flow meters or whatever they're called, then this is the same document for one small change that you looked at the last meeting. And so I think our city engineer can give a fuller explanation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Rockhuber, would you like to take a stand virtually? You're on mute too. Mr. Rockhuber, you're on mute.
I was on mute. I'm sorry. Is that better? All
Gotcha. Loud and clear.
right. Good evening, council members. Thank you for letting me attending tonight by Zoom. Let me take over to the recommended bottom line, and that's in paragraph D on page 7. Harvey, can you point that out to them?
Page that number.
And it's
Page right here.
little paragraph, little D. It's below table 6.1.
Second to the last page.
What I'm recommending is modification or with a sentence or extension of a sentence in paragraph little d. Have y'all found that?
Yes. Yep.
And what I'm proposing, I'm going to read it into the record. It's fairly short. For the third and subsequent penalty. And what that means is that paragraphs little b and c address penalty, the first penalty and the second penalty, but do not, we just notify the customer that they may can be subject to installation of a flow restrictor. Paragraph little d, though, then it allows, would provide the city the opportunity to install those flow restrictors. And it reads, for the third and subsequent, any additional violations of water use under table 6.1, the customer shall be charged a drought exceeding surcharge as shown in table 6.1 for each of 1,000 gallons of water used in excess of allowable usage set forth in table 6.1. And now this is the new part, be subject to immediate installation of a flow restricting device of 1 gallon per minute capacity for services up to 1 inch, 1.5 inch in size, and comparatively sized restrictors for larger services. Now, to get to the recommendation of 1 gallon per minute, I did additional research since the last council meeting. First, I did sort of an analysis of the kind of my old hydraulic engineering days. And I did a little table on a spreadsheet or a graphic for y'all. It's a one-page thing, but this shows the relationship. These flow restrictors is simply a device that limits flow through the water meter. And it'd be installed right upstream of the water meter. And they're typically a washer that will fit into a 3/4 inch or 1 inch pipe upstream of the water meter and it'll have a little hole in it. And the three graphs shown on the graphic on that particular handout evaluated a 1/16th of an inch diameter hole. That's really small. And then a 1/4 inch, then a 1/8 inch and 1/4 inch. And you'll see the relationship on the x-axis, which is a system side pressure, and on the y-axis is flow through that diameter hole using Bernoulli's equation. So it's a function of pressure. It's a function of pressure both on the system side and the customer side. And as you imagine, if a customer's house down in the valley and the pump station on top of the hill, that customer down in the valley is going to get a higher pressure just because of the elevational difference, because he's much slower than where the pumps and where the water's originating from. So what I recommend is that we use 1 gallon per minute. I checked several ordinances on the internet, and that generally seems to be fitting orifice size of a roughly 1/8 of an inch, given the typical system pressures we have in Hayes and the Elliott Ranch. And I think it's best to tie the penalty and the flow restriction decision based on gallons per minute as opposed to pressure, because of the elevational changes you can have in your water system. So I recommend the council adopt language that would be 1 gallon. Immediate installation of flow restricting device, but 1 gallon per minute capacity for surfaces up to 1.5 inches.
Thank you very much. Council, is there any questions for Mr. Rothschild or Mr. Davis? Lydia?
I have a question, and maybe a silly one, but the Estates Utility Water Supply Corporation water system, that's all of our water and all of the water provided to Elliott Ranch?
Where are you reading this?
Where it says the first, whereas the city Hayes purchased the Estates Utility Water Supply Corporation water system that serves the citizens of the city and other customers. Our water system is legally known as Estates Utilities Water Supply.
Yeah.
That's our legal.
We used to have a co-op that owned the water system,
Mhm.
and the city of Hayes acquired it from the co-op. That only affects the city of Hayes water system, has nothing to do with Elk Branch.
It's never just we call country estates.
So our, just for city of Hayes, is Estates Water Supply.
No, that was the former entity that owned the water system. The city acquired that. That was long before I was the mayor. So this was
And what is it now known as? Our water supply.
just the city of water system. It's just the department of the city of Hayes.
Just because we're so long time.
Mr. Rothschild got his hand raised.
Water utility.
Lydia?
I would recommend, I didn't have an opportunity to review the particular draft ordinance, but I would recommend that the recitals refer to each water system's TCEQ PWS number. We have one water system as the city, and that water system has 2 PWS numbers. One is for the city of Hayes water system, and the second one's for the Elliott Ranch water system. And the tariff applies equally to both of those systems. I'd recommend to reference City of Hayes water system with PWS number. I have to look it up, and the Elliott Ranch water system with PBS number. I need to look it up, but I can give you those.
It is not
references.
currently noted, correct?
No.
Pardon?
It's not currently noted. There's no differentiating between the Elliott Ranch and the city of Hayes. The
again,
document does not separate them in this document. It doesn't identify the names of the water system. Is that correct?
I haven't
Yeah,
read the
this-
document you're looking at.
It does not. It would apply to the water systems owned by the city, just like the tariff. You know, this ordinance amends the existing tariff just to add that section 6.17.
Thank you.
Very good.
But
Dawn, I had a question. On the flow restrictor, does that, when it says that it restricts the flow restricting device of 1 gallon per minute, does that mean that only 1 gallon per minute is getting through?
Uh-huh.
That's the rated capacity of, yes, that's correct.
It will help.
And there's a number of different types of flow restrictors. And there's some on the market now that you can adjust based on the system pressure at each meter to provide only 1 gallon per minute, because it's a function of where the meter is located in distance and elevation differences to where the pump station is located.
Okay, thank you.
This is Tony, Mr. Chaz, do we have to put those TCQ numbers on there because the city of Hayes owns both systems?
I don't think you would have to, because this ordinance is just amending your existing tariff to add a new section.
Okay, so I would, go back and forth with it.
Does the original one correct?
I think inside, if I don't have the entire tariff in front of me, but I think if you open that document, it probably would somewhere have the PWS numbers in there.
yeah, and furthermore, that would be like a total separate subject to amend that. Right now, we're just saying we're gonna add this to the existing.
No, but if you're amending something that's not correct, we just want to know if the original is correct, because we're amending that. That would be the time to catch anything that's not current with the original document, because we're amending that to include this.
Well, kind of,
We're-
doing anything to the original document, we're just amendment is adding this to it, that's it.
Well, we're amending.
The original tariff
Mhm.
has been amended probably 7 or 8 times, going back to the. I'm not sure the earliest one, but I think it was in the 90s. So that has never been a problem or issue. But, you know, I don't have the original one with me, so I can't answer your question exactly, but it has never been a
So the
issue.
first amendment was done in the 90s, and there's been 7 or 8 since
Tariff.
then.
The
Okay.
tariff was
The
adopted.
document was established in the
been-
90s,
It's been amended
was the original, 7 or 8.
7 or 8 times, yes.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, every time you change your rates, it's an amendment to your tariff.
Is there any other questions, council? Yeah. If there's no other questions, council, I would suggest we make a motion to either accept or not accept the amendment that add flow restriction to 1 gallon per minute capacity for services up to 1 inch. Side or third.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Katz,
Yes,
have you reviewed the water utility tariff amendment?
the amendment that's in front of you in this ordinance, yes, I drafted this ordinance.
And your legal opinion is it's ready, it's good to go.
Yes.
Thank you.
So maybe,
I have a question.
go ahead.
I know Dawn on the last one, and I think Dee, when you and Dee were working on this water tariff amendment, there was some discretionary, is that still in this document?
I don't recall what was discretionary. Um,
I know that it was that will and shall thing, remember? And we thought that the will and, or may, will and may, something like that.
We kept it as shall.
Yeah, when we kept it, did we keep it as shall?
Mhm.
Okay, all right, well, I just was wondering because I know there was some talk of discretionary on,
It's all shall verbiage.
okay,
And I think the other item was the size of the restrictor,
yeah.
although we had a question,
But now we've got that
It's already
resolved
done.
too. It's depends on the pressure of the location.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay, if there's no further questions, I would suggest council make a motion. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we adopt the ordinance, this ordinance updating part 6 of the city's water tariff.
Motion has been made.
I'll second the motion
Motion
to
has-
adopt ordinance number 2401, water utility tariff 2024 amendment.
Motion has been seconded. We'll take this to a council vote. All in favor? All in favor? Okay, thank you very much. We will move on to agenda item 5B. Receive updates and take appropriate action regarding the installation of generators in the city of Hayes and Elliott principal sites.
I'm not sure if I updated you about my conversation with Adura and Courtney,
No,
but they, Courtney, who we weren't able to get in touch with in June, that caused us a lot of work. She did answer the phone recently, and I had a nice conversation with her, but they don't have any, they don't know, and they don't have any feedback from FEMA about these grants. So it's all, everybody's waiting. My experience is from the grant that we got for the ice storm, that small one. It was a lot of effort and pain to get it through FEMA. And then you think, well, they're just gonna send the money to the state and they should pay us because I've done all the work. FEMA gave them all the documentation they needed, but that's not the way it works because the state had repeated a lot of things that they wanted. So it's just a long, painful process. And, and this grant is a lot more complicated, a lot bigger than, this little $7,000 grant that we got for this. But so wish I could be more optimistic because I hate for the city to have to spend money out of its pocket, but I just don't see this being fulfilled in the near future.
Lady?
Mayor, we have a couple of questions, sir. One, I understand that the grant, is a long shot and it's gonna take a long time. Is there any possibility, kind of splitting the baby if we will? My understanding is we need one set of generators for the city of Hayes and one generator for the city of Hayes and one for Elliott Ranch, and the total combined cost is anywhere between $250,000 to $400,000. Is that correct?
no, just 200,000.
250.
All including even the installation, everything else is maximum
Gas
250.
tanks.
Gas tanks, maximum 250.
Concrete.
Yeah.
Now, is there any possibility, and you've been with the city for a very long time, is there any possibility that we could purchase one? I know this is far-fetched. Wait on the other to see if we get grant funds, but on the one that we purchase, and I don't know all about the water rights and what it would take, is there any way that we can surcharge our water customers for the cost over an extended period of time? So it's not a lump sum, so that we can recover part of the cost. I know in a lot of the bills that we have received or what have you the last couple of years, whether it's the pandemic or any other expenses or infrastructure costs that have happened with utilities, then we get a surcharge. Is there a gas surcharge when it's a fuel cost or infrastructure cost on an electric bill or what have you? Is there an option to surcharge our residents?
That would be a question for Dawn, wouldn't it?
But could we buy one and potentially get a surcharge to recover some of the costs, even half the cost? Because I know I personally don't want a bigger water bill for our customers. Most people are older and on a fixed income and what have you. But we also have a very aging and, you know, we're gonna prayer utility system. Is that an option? And for Dawn or for Joshua,
Well, you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start.
Yeah.
for water rights?
And then Mr.
We've always had uniform rates between City of Hayes and Elliott Branch.
Of course.
And I think there's an advantage to continuing to do that. I think the water company, whether it's for profit or community owned, should have rates that are high enough that you build up reserves to do projects like this, major repairs.
Right, that's-
And
Be
I
charged.
think the problem with our rate structure has been that it's more of a break-even situation. And we're not building, we have lots of reserves, but they were built up mainly several years ago, and we're not building up reserves now to pay for projects like that. As far as having a surcharge for just one specific thing, I
Infrastructure.
don't know. I mean, it would be again an update to the tariff, and we've now done 2 updates to our tariffs within 6 months. So I think the updating of the tariffs needs to maybe wait a while.
Is there a reason, but is that an option to buy one and wait for one so that we don't know what the odds of success are with the grants to recoup our cost of $250,000?
Certainly. The city can
Have to buy. Oh,
buy one.
Right, but if we buy one and we expend $125,000, pretty much our only source of
Yeah.
revenue is the water that we sell
I would think that we might
for the
get
city.
better charges if, somebody's doing work, they can do work on both systems at the same time. But that's more of a Don Rashu question.
Mr. Rusher, you want to, you have anything to chime in with?
Oh, is that a question for me?
Yeah, do you have anything to add to the conversation? Sorry.
Well, I mean, the city certainly can purchase these. I projected a budget for each of the water systems. They're very close to the same, about $65,000 to $70,000 for each system. So, the total capital expenditure will be in that $140,000 to $150,000 range for the generators installed with the propane tanks and all the electrical upgrades that we need to make. So I think the kind of in the box in that any grant program, at least the one that we're pursuing currently, will not reimburse the city for any money out of pocket spent prior to being awarded the grant. So as far as the tariff, you can amend your tariff to add a surcharge. If it's on a capital improvements program, you really should go through under Chapter 395 rules on capital improvements. And then you could charge an impact fee, but that's on growth, and both systems are pretty much built out, right? In terms of Elliott Ranch being really is built out. Maybe there's a few lots left that some people buy 2 lots together. So there's really not a lot of growth. There is some potential for a little growth in Hayes, but it'd be a special expense. We could visit with the legal counsel about doing a surcharge, try to recover those funds over time.
Now, did you mention the total cost of 70,000 per generator, all inclusive? So
Per
that's
plant.
150 and not 250?
That's correct. It's about 70,000 per plant.
Where did we get 250 from?
I think that's what we had in the grant, the revised grant.
But in reality, 150 is not,
I think we had a contingency in there.
Wait, Don,
Yeah.
just for clarification,
Confused.
what's the total all in all if we bought both of the generators and installed? Is it 250 or is it 150 or what? You tell us.
It should be right at $150,000 total.
installed.
Installed,
Purchase
concrete
both?
pad, concrete pad. Yeah, I think you're saying that.
Everything included, all the parts.
Where did we get 250,000?
But Harvey was saying that the grant was that much.
Oh, I thought our grant was 400,000.
They revised it. to-
The grant application prepared by Adura was over 400,000.
Yeah.
When we worked on it,
They had-
because FEMA sent it back to the state sent it back to us. And we spent hours on it with Don. And my recollection was it was about 250,000.
Okay, but
But there were, contingencies and
They had them.
let's get back to the generators now. So now you're saying that total cost for both generators installed with tanks, concrete pad infrastructure hookups would be $150,000 for both? Don?
That's the budget I'm using to project. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Does that include inflation costs, everything else?
Let me ask you a question. Does that influence your project management fee, Don? The
I had a little bit in for it.
engineering
Yes, sir.
fee?
Yes, sir. I had a little money in for engineering costs. Yes, sir.
That's included in the 150,000,
Well, that's a lot better than,
250,000, yes.
It's more doable at 150. Then we wouldn't even need to go to a surcharge or tariff route at that rate.
Yeah, but we will have
We
to,
don't recoup the money.
since I'm thinking about it, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Are you done?
Go ahead. Are you finished?
Wait, who's going?
I'll come back, go ahead.
But I was thinking about it, we just need to put in the agenda that, like Harvey said, we need to look at our water rates, so we will be break even. So we have money in the budget to cover emergencies and items like this that come up.
That's a separate. that's-
Yeah, no, I'm just saying
that's a
that,
sep- That's not,
wait a minute, we're talking about water infrastructure
no,
surcharge?
we're talking
Hold
about the
it.
generators.
Wait a minute.
We're talking about the generators,
Yeah.
not.
We need the money to pay for it. So,
send
what I'm saying, in the future, we just note it in there,
That's it.
Separate
okay?
agenda item.
Okay,
No.
no, I'm not, I don't want to talk about now, just that
Yeah.
we need to put it in the agenda.
Okay. we
Okay,
can, but
that's it,
not right
that's
now.
it.
Yeah.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Question, just so that I make sure I have a good understanding of this. Doc, the reason that we're getting the generators, I know it's a safety net for the city should our wells or what have you go down, correct? And we've never had them before, but now it's a requirement
It was a state
by
law,
the government that we get these.
and during that.
And that's why we're gonna have funding, perhaps a grant to offset some of the costs, because this was inflicted on everybody by state law. Remember the law
Yeah.
passed and now everyone's required to have them to protect, to safeguard their system.
Elliott Ranches
We've never
went
had
down.
When,
did go down 2 years ago.
Yeah, during that,
so
yeah.
the backup generator would have kept them from like a boil water notice or anything like that.
Okay, Mr. Don, can you validate that? Is that correct?
That is correct. If I understand, and here, I kind of cut in and out here, but I think both projects together should run 150, maybe 160,000. And, prices change pretty quick here. This when our marketplace, right, where it is.
So the question, Mr. Rosshuber, was, is it a state law to have these generators installed at the pump houses?
Yes, it is.
That should be it right there.
So 160 is a lot better than 250 or 400.
It is, it's actually more affordable. And, we could vote on maybe getting the generators ordered, and then that way, we have the generators. And then think about the expense of having them installed. I'm kind of opposed to doing just one at a time because they're both needed. And we both need to get this. We've been sitting on this, waiting for this same grant for what, 3 years now?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I was thinking personally, we would not, if we had something that our household needed that would protect, we wouldn't be
We wouldn't-
waiting, we wouldn't be
wouldn't wait.
playing the lottery to,
We're trying to be good stewards of our fund, but at
Yeah,
the
we
same
are.
time, we need to protect the interests of our water supply.
Some
Now we're on one well.
The installment costs would not be at the same time because there's a little big lead time.
Between 7 weeks
Would
and
go
7
into,
months.
You know, maybe the next year, the next budget year, whatever.
Next fiscal year's
Installation.
October 1?
depends on how long it takes for them to come in.
Mr. Davis, go ahead.
Oh, my recommendation is that if you move forward with this installation, that you move forward to doing the whole thing. Just buying the generators. and all
Oh, no, we can't hold a generator. We can't do that.
Going ahead and installing it.
Yeah.
Doing the whole thing.
Mr. Rosshuber, you got your hand raised. Go ahead.
I recommended the council this is a multi-step process. And of course, we've been waiting now for what, 3 years, Harvey, 2.5 years on this grant. I'd recommend the council to authorize moving forward with the TCEQ approval of each generating system at each plant. Because we do have your emergency preparedness plan has been approved, but the water supply division also has to have plan sets to approve the additions to each of the pump stations. So that's the first step. It's going to be about a 3 to 4 month step to go through that submission of plans and approval process. We'll prepare budgets as part of that step and try to better define the costs for the council of making the decision on whether to purchase the equipment and install with a contractor. But it could be a 2-step process. And I recommend you all move forward with the first step. And that's TCEQ approval.
Question, Lydia first, Tony next. Go ahead, Lydia.
Don,
Yes,
can
ma'am.
you hear me, sir?
Yes.
So we would not, just to make sure, we would incur some expenses to get the TCEQ approval of your professional fees or what have you. And that process would take 3 to 4 months. And then we would get the budget process of the 160,000 breakdown 3 to 4 months later, or no, sooner, like in February. How long does this process take? Because I think we've been working on getting a new well, as far as I can remember, 4 years. How long does this process take? TCEQ approval, budget and installation, purchase and installation of time.
The TCEQ approval process through the water supply division should take about 4 months, including the design of each system, each generation system. And that would end up with an approval from the TCEQ to construct. And then you could, and also be updating the budgets for each with all the equipment, and electrical improvements. So the council has a better idea of exactly how much it's going to cost. And then at that point, if the grant came through or looks like it's going to go through, then the city may be out the engineering costs and, you know, that cost associated with TCEQ approval. But that's, it kind of minimizes your exposure. If a grant comes through, then we can jump into the grant process, but you probably will not get reimbursed for your out-of-pocket until then.
For engineering, but we could get the ball rolling and get everything in motion. Start TCEQ approval, 3 to 4 months, then budget. If we had a Gantt, Billy, to do it start to finish, what would it look like?
Yeah, so
I would love to see it.
So
I'm very visual, so I need to see it.
TCE.
3 to 4 months,
1,
2,
2,
3, 4.
3, 4.
Then with some overlap for budget.
Budget update.
When could you add it to the council agenda, February?
You could start this process tonight by getting a budget update, and that would
And
probably,
you would add it to our February agenda?
yes, given where we're at, January, I don't think he could turn
The
around
18th.
unless the contractors that he's already talking to, they might be able to, but it might
March
be
agenda.
March agenda, so.
So 4 months, 3 to 4 months, starting, say, February 1.
We can have like a good solid update. with a budget. And then that whole time, if we still, like,
And then installation.
yeah, I didn't understand it. The steps to do, so.
We do.
So this, then we can, the grant process is still going,
So that's all the way through.
so that's just going.
And then the next line is installation.
And then.
Do we have an
had-
inspection
we had
process
the
too?
lead times on there, so.
Be construction.
But you could very well,
Well,
under
no, we-
installation.
We can't, because we still have another update from what other entity needs to approve this?
Besides TCQ,
Yeah,
Don?
because this is the
No,
first
there's
step.
only the TCEQ from upgrades to your public water system.
How does this tie into PGMS or anybody else? Do they have to be involved too?
Well, they'll be closer, they'll be operating the system. So what you'll have involved would be your engineer and also then a contractor, whether you do one or two different contractors, like
So to
that
the
option
left,
is out there.
so to the left is City of Hayes,
The
Don.
Only approval
PGMS.
needed is the TCEQ.
But how long would final plans take?
Installation and construction, how long? Don?
The
That's
approval,
that 4-month process I was talking about, 3 to 4 month process.
What's on top?
So February, March, and April to May is TCQ. Budget, we could put it on February agenda, do it on March agenda, hopefully finalize it, and then go to the grant is ongoing, even if we expend funds February, March, and by some miracle, the grant comes in, we're not out that much money, maybe 10, 20 grand. And then you go to construction,
what
so
we're saying
Summer?
is,
by summer, we could be done.
How long is construction gonna take?
we have the lead time. We can't install.
Yeah.
What are the lead times on the generators?
7 weeks and 7 months.
Lead time on, when I checked, was before the last council meeting for the 60-watt generator was 4 to 6 weeks. The 50-watt generator for the City of Hayes water system was more like 6 months out. It was kind of interesting what I found.
So,
And what's the deposit requirement for these generators?
Each of them are 50% down and then 50% when the truck rolls into town.
What is the cost on the 50 and 60? Individually for the,
26,000 counting the switchgear and some of the electric equipment.
each, so each one would require 13,000 down?
That would be correct, to order them.
But once we order them,
Now,
then we're not eligible for cost reimbursement because we've already ordered
yeah,
them, right?
so it's, in essence, this is what we're giving
Yeah.
the grant process is another 4 months if we approve tonight, the first step. And if we do get the grant approved, we're just out Don's engineering fees. Then if we do get that approval, then all of this is paid for.
Mhm.
If not, by this time, and again, we've been waiting, so like, we are being generous if we approve tonight. And still go through this process, that's another 4 months that we're giving. You know, the city to try to get that cost back, but. I mean, this is kind of what I've been thinking is just like. Let's give this a couple more months, which we will have to,
Because of the TC, but we could
Yeah.
start TCQ,
but we can get this.
then
process.
add budget,
Get
and
the
then wait
budget
on
update.
wait on construction.
You know what our final cost is going to be at this 4 month point,
Yeah.
and if we get that.
But where's the order? At what point do we pull the trigger and order? At 13,000 apiece for the deposit?
I would think that once we got the
In 4 months.
approval from
The approval, yeah.
TCEQ, we need.
So that'll give us 4 months that, in hopes that we get a response.
Yeah,
I think that's a very good plan. And thank you for the visual. I always need a grant
Yeah,
work.
I think that's good.
I need a Gantt.
Thanks for cutting to the chase.
Gantt.
Lydia. Thank
Now,
you.
if we could do a Gantt for our well, can we please do that? Can we please do a Gantt? Because unless we do this, it's never gonna happen. We've been waiting
the
years.
other,
I have the floor.
Absolutely.
Don, do we have to wait to buy the generators until TCEQ approves the project? In other words, we can't do any expenditures to buy the generators or other things until TCEQ gives their blessing. Is that correct?
No, You could actually purchase the generators right away, but there's some risk that TCEQ may not
I
approve
wouldn't order them until.
plans as per submitted. But those sort of issues or
I wouldn't
engineering
recommend we
never
order
get
them.
worked out.
I agree.
Okay.
So probably
Consider
the
our
best
generator.
plan that we've come up with.
Yeah, I think this satisfies everyone's need, like, if we're still interested in the grant. We need to take this step in order to get full approval. There might be a revision. That's the risk we take if we order now that TCEQ says, no, that plan's not good enough, go back to the drawing board.
Revise it. Yeah.
And we ordered the wrong generator, right?
Right.
That is the risk.
Mhm.
But if we wait the 4 months, at least we again have the small hope that we will get this.
Which generator's gonna come in and
7 weeks is the
It's a-
60 watt,
is it
and
Elliott
the
Ranch?
50 watt
Yeah,
is
and then-
6 months.
Only once, and then we have to wait 6 months.
And then, yeah, and then if not, then we just move forward and that's the process.
But in
We all get that-
2024, we would be successful in accomplishing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Now, can we, I know it's early, but can we add a line item in your next agenda to do a Gantt and request updates so that we can Gantt the water well that we've been working on for so long and not making progress?
Mhm.
Can we do that for February?
You can send that in and we'll get that on the agenda.
Okay.
Anything table for the agenda.
Thank you.
I just know, go ahead.
Oh, I recommend that the council instruct our engineer to start the TCEQ process and to prepare a budget. And once he has a budget prepared, then we'll need to put on the agenda a budget amendment, because we haven't budgeted this money. So that needs to be a budget amendment.
Okay.
But the main thing is to instruct our engineer to begin the process of TCEQ.
Awesome. Lydia, take it away.
I'd like to file a motion, please, that we have Mr. Don, our water expert, file the request for TCEQ approval for our sites, for our wells, to install the generators.
I'll second that motion.
Motion has been made, motion has been second, take it to a council vote, all in favor? All in favor.
Oh, finally, we got the
Productive
ball
meeting.
rolling. Thank you, Lydia.
That was a good discussion.
Thank
It
you.
was. We appreciate your help and your
Thank
team
you.
for writing
Thank you,
it.
everyone that's here
It
today.
does help to get that.
I live by the Gantt.
Agree.
I live by the Gantt. My project, my wall, like this, my office is this big, and it's all Gantt.
Well, I think that's wonderful.
Hey, everyone, that was a very good meeting. Again, I appreciate
Yeah.
everyone coming. And, yeah.
No, we're not.
Mr. Katz. Ms. Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council.
Dalston and Don, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you, I think.
Yeah, you too. With that, we'll move on to agenda item 6, adjournment. Time is 8:17. Thank you.
And a big round of applause for Mayor Hart.
Yay.
Thank you all.